There we go. Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And I'm here with one of my favorite people. She's a former hairball queen. She's got this fabulous trilogy that have my favorite flower in the title, and that's what got my attention. Is Goodbye Orchid, all of her books, Orchid Blooming. There's three. There's three in the trilogy, and but they're important books because what I look for when I pick out a book is not only a great story, but a story that enlightens us to understand something we don't understand. And I want to focus on that because I took a quick vacation this summer at the end of school, and I met all these veterans and I interviewed him. And if you should watch this interview I did, it's up on my Kathy L. Murphy YouTube channel. And half my family grew up in the military, so in fact, I'm pretty sure my dad had post-traumatic stress disorder when he came home from Korea because he was wounded twice, tragic accidents. But let's talk about your books. Now, these all started, you have a very busy life. You work for a corporation. I mean, and not just any corporation, probably the corporation that most people would probably want to be a part of because it's about chocolate. So tell us a little bit about your background as if nobody's ever heard this before. And if somebody jumps in, I will let them in. Okay. So just tell me about yourself.
Well, listen, like you, Kathy, I feel like I wear many hats in life, and I know you do too,
Yep.
as an artist as you are, as a beautician as you've been, as a literary advocate. So for me, I feel like the hats I wear in life, I do love my corporate day job. I love working for Mars Incorporated. I've been really blessed to have a career in marketing and strategy and insights and digital technologies. But I also do love my other hat as an author and as a speaker. And, being the author of the Goodbye Orchid series means so much to me. I feel like it's a story I've carried in my heart since I was a little girl. When I think back, and I love the stories of you as a child when you really, found literature as a place of solace, because that's true for me as well. And
It's
then,
true.
yeah,
It's
and
true.
then
And what's important for the audience to know that, um, I've done a lot of research in the past times of COVID about why reading is so important and sharing stories. When we share stories, we're the only animal on this planet that does that. That's what makes us human. And through storytelling, it's our religions, it's our mythologies, it's our, upbringing with children's stories. It's a way of making connections. So when you wrote this story about this woman and the fact that she takes us on this journey that is just it's important because it's also educational, and but it doesn't read like a textbook or a nonfiction book. It reads as a wonderful story that you want to know more. So you're doing both these things, and I think in the times today, most people can't do one thing to make a living if we want to keep the lifestyles that we've had. So, I think if you're talented in one thing, you're going to be talented in another, and you obviously have it in spades. So, um, you just said you did a book signing yesterday, and it went really well. You sold out of all your books. You've won. I know in this book particular, I was looking how many awards. This isn't enough. This book said you had won 16, and I'm going, oh no, it's way more than that now.
it
Yeah.
is. It is now 40 literary design awards for women's
Are you
fiction.
going to make the Guinness Book of World Records? Because I mean, what is the most amount of awards you can win for a book?
I don't know, and I'm not trying for quantity, that's for
No,
sure. I
no.
really, am so blessed every time another award recognizes a book in the Goodbye Orchid trilogy. It means so much to me. And to be recognized for different things, everything from multicultural fiction because of
Right.
Orchid being half Asian to disability awareness.
Right.
That is very meaningful to me, because the third hat I wear in life is I'm a mom to twins, one
I
of whom
know.
has special needs. And so it's been important to me to shine a light on disability awareness.
Well, and I think that's what the world needs to know we're not just one-dimensional characters. We're multi-dimensional and multitasking moms, mothers, corporate workers, authors. I mean, but everything you do, you champion. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I'm curious as to your parents. I mean, what kind of childhood did you have to grow up to be this driven and successful? I'm curious about home life when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think two factors led me to be quite independent and resilient. One is my parents were immigrants.
Yeah.
So my grandparents and my parents had to flee China when the communists took over. On my mother's side of the family, they fled to Taiwan. On my father's side of the family, they fled to Hong Kong in order to come to the US, for which I am forever grateful to be born in such a wonderful country. I'm really grateful. And so I think that immigrant mentality, you hear it, that focus on education, on work ethic, those are things that were just so ingrained in my childhood from the start. And then the other thing I do think has created me to be a very resilient person is hardship at an early age. So actually, my father died when I was 12. And,
Oh,
in the books, Orchid loses her parents at the age of 12. So
yeah.
certainly I'm writing from a place of authenticity, of something I've personally experienced.
Wow. That's pretty young to lose your father. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really sad. Do you still have your mom?
My mom passed when my boys were just 4, so they didn't get to know her
Oh,
very much either. Yeah.
oh, wow. Well, my dad's gone now too, and my mother has Alzheimer's. So, it's just, the families are shrinking, and we're all spread out. But, when you say you're from an immigrant family, my great grandfather came from Cork County, Ireland. I mean, it wasn't just three generations back, my great great grandfather, and then on both sides of my family, and I've done all the DNA and stuff. So that's why I think it's very important in this coming election that we address this issue because I'm see so many of my author friends facing so much. Why don't you go back where you came from? And I go,
Oh, I
well, I was
know.
born here.
Yes.
That is the stupidest thing. I mean, where it's people that never get out of their county.
Mm,
They never get out of their county. And I think everybody comes from somewhere else unless you're Native American. I
mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
so I don't know what the big issue is, but I have always, I think the more educated you are, the more you have a better understanding of how wide the world is and the more you travel. I mean, you've
Mm,
traveled extensively and you are constantly on the road.
mm.
How important do you think that is to your writing process, is the traveling?
I do think it plays a role because I have a belief that we are all interconnected.
Oh, me too.
To your point. And I think that the more we recognize that, the more we try to find places of commonality and love instead of fighting each other. And so
Right.
for me, I think it's wonderful to be able to shed a light on multicultural perspectives, to deepen empathy. And so
Absolutely.
many places show up in the Goodbye Orchid series. You know that Orchid, in order to feel closer to the memory of her Asian mother, wants to win a work trip to Asia. Also, the characters travel to Paris for Cannes, which is a wonderful award ceremony because Phoenix is the head of an ad agency. And so these two, they definitely travel. They live in New York. They come to New Jersey, where I'm talking to you from right now. And so there are many places and different careers and different windows into the world that certainly show up in the Goodbye Orchid series from my own personal travel experience.
Well, starting this new focus, I've always picked international books. I've always read international books, but several years ago, I thought, why don't I call it the International? We're an international book club, but I want to go one step further because it's people here in the United States. I don't know so much other places, but here they don't read books that are set in other places as much as they do in other countries. And I want to change that because I mean, everybody, you list their favorite book and people say Gone with the Wind. I go, have you read the book? Oh yeah, I read it. I go, well, most of that book is set in Ireland. I don't remember that. I go, it's because they didn't read the book. They watched the movie. I go, we have to get a little bit more educated on our histories and so we don't repeat the mistakes. So I think your book is really like the first generation of books that I've seen that are actually addressing issues that we're all facing today. I
Mm.
mean, and I think about some of my authors that are also writing for the I can never can get the acronym right, the LBG,
Oh,
yeah, community.
LGBTQ, yes.
I,
Uh-huh.
I I can't ever get that. I'm terrible at acronyms, but finally, we've got something to put out there that people can see. But I just think it's wonderful that more and more books, because we just didn't really see them when I was growing up.
Mm.
It was more books about Little House on the Prairie and dogs and animals, and not so much dealing with veterans or disabilities or wanting to find your ancestry.
Mhm.
So what was the most inspiring thing when you were working on this last book that you was unexpected, something that you maybe when your research turned up that you just go, oh my? Because I have an epiphany every day. I come across, because of being an art history major, I find out all kinds of things. Is there something that stands out for you?
So there is, and I'd love to hear if you had an epiphany reading the third novel, Always Orchid, because for me, my moments that I think about are the insights that my beta readers gave me. And
Yes.
I'll call out two stories in particular because Dr. Linda Olson read the entire manuscript. She is a radiologist who, when
Hmm.
she was in her 20s, her car was stuck on a train track. And when it was struck, everybody else was fine, but the train ran her over and she lost both her legs and her arm.
Are you
And
kidding?
when she
Oh,
woke, she was, a newlywed, very young. And, you could go to a place where you would think life is over. But she is so strong and resilient and finds the beauty and optimism in life. And so when she read the manuscript and said, wow, you really got the emotional details right, the little things, the way in which Phoenix and Orchid support each other. They use a combination of just true like care and tenderness, but also humor to get through hard times. And she just loved the way she loved those examples, brought tears to my eyes, for telling me that the authenticity is in the storytelling.
well, as soon as we can get the stigma off of little people or somebody that has lost limbs or mental illness, whatever the handicap internally or externally, if we can get everybody in the mainstream so that it's acceptable. I happened to go to school with so many kids that had, you know, all kinds of difficulties. And I had a smart teacher that put me in charge of special ed for teaching French. And I have never been so impressed in my life. They wanted to learn. And then I had some sixth graders that could care less and they were just little jerks. But, I knew I didn't want to be a teacher at that time. But I will tell you what you're putting out there. And I've forgotten, did you say this you were going to do another one in this series?
This trilogy is done, although
Okay.
yesterday at my book signing, because a lot of people who came to my book signing had already read books one and or two and were coming for the finale to the trilogy, and they kept asking me for a fourth
I
installation.
know. I
They
just knew that was going to happen because, it's very rare that I pick three in a row on an author. But, I'm kind of the belief, Oprah loved Toni Morrison. And I just go, if you like an author's books, Pat Conroy's, you just love their books. I break the rules every day. I break my own rules. I think I could see you writing another book, but I'm curious as to you have something in mind. I already know that you're going to do something because you're a planner, and you're too busy not to be. So what is the future holding after you tour for everywhere you can for this latest book?
So the fourth novel I'm working on is actually a little bit amorphous at the moment. And so Kathy, maybe you'll have input or want to help me
Oh,
shape it.
oh, I love it. I love it.
Um, yeah, so it's certainly not set in stone. The impetus for the idea, actually earlier you asked me about my ancestry and I shared about my
Yes,
grandparents who fled China. When they fled China, I'm thinking about my mother's side of the family. When they fled
right.
China to go to Taiwan, they had a young baby who had to stay with her wet nurse in China. And their intention was to send for them, that they were going to join up with the family in Taiwan, but at a later date. Before they could send for the baby and the wet nurse, the borders closed and there
Yep.
was no one could get in or out and no communication back and forth.
And this is the true story.
It is. This is a true story in which my grandparents did not see that daughter of theirs for, I think, 3 decades. And so that kind of heartbreak, the way that politics and power can shatter families, I think has such a strong, it certainly holds a very strong emotional resonance for me, which is an important place for an author to start. Something that matters to me, some story that I want to tell. And so from that, I think there's the heart of a very powerful idea, but the
I love
direction
it.
it could go in multiple ways. And that's what I'm shaping. I'm telling myself, as many authors do, you first tell yourself the story in order to be able to tell it to others.
And the truth is always much more unbelievable than fiction. I don't know why it is. They go, if you write a true story, they go, "Is that true?" Well, yeah, it's my story. But if you write fiction, they go, if you write nonfiction, they think you made it up, and if you write fiction, they vice versa. But I love that idea, and I actually helped judge a contest with Good Morning America on what it meant to be an American. They asked for stories, and I helped judge it. And actually, the one I voted for did not win, but the girl who won was from Afghanistan and she came to the United States. But it was a man who fled Cuba, but they had to leave their baby. And the mother, they had went on to have many, many more children. They settled in New York, but the mother missed the son. They missed the son. They couldn't get him here. They couldn't get him here. So finally, the father, he looked just like his son. He went over and he shaved his beard off, and the son put one on, and he gave him his passport,
Oh my God.
and he sent him to the United States, and he stayed behind
Wow.
because his wife was heartbroken. Now, it's kind of like a gift of the Magi, but it still just chills me because he was like 32, when this happened, and the dad was young when he had him. So, but what father would do that? That self-sacrifice. And the daughter wrote the story and sent it into Good Morning America. Her father, they finally got back, the whole family reunited, and he got cancer and he died.
Oh my God. What a story. Oh my gosh.
And
That's
I said,
heartbreaking.
that is the most powerful. But she said, but because of America, we're now free and we don't have to go through that. Our children don't have to go through that. And I want the world to hear these kind of stories. So, can you find the research on I mean, who did she live with? She lived with a wet nurse or a family member?
Well, she ended up being raised by her grandparents who were still in China. So she had family in China. She wasn't abandoned, but I think it was still very heartbreaking. I'm actually thinking based on your story around the man in Cuba, it's taking me back to what you said, where this election year is really important because the
It is.
freedom that we have in the US, we should not take for granted. And we should
And
be fighting to
I said,
hold on to
vote.
that and to
It's
grow that freedom,
too
not to be,
important.
yes.
And
No.
we've got to vote, and we've got to really think about what we want for our world ahead. Because, I mean, to me, um, I'm in class at UT Tyler with kids from all over the world. I mean, this one blonde boy looks like the quarterback on the football team. His dad's from the Philippines and his mother is from Sweden. He's not even from this country. He has perfect English, blonde hair, blue eyed like his mom, but his dad's from the Philippines. I go, oh my goodness, I want to interview him this semester because his story is amazing how they came to the United States.
Mm.
And I think that if we all researched all our ancestors, and that what would be a great idea is at the back part of your book, give a little index or a little guidebook on how you can research your own grandparent.
Oh, that's interesting. Mm.
Because so many people are doing this ancestry.com and all the different things now, but nobody knows where to begin. If you just had that little snippet, like like you did with the book club questions in the back of your book,
Mm.
doing it that way. And, but man, I want to know that story. And what did she do when she grew up? What did she become? Would she get married and have children, or?
She did. She got married, she had a child, and ultimately her parents were able to help her attain her visa to be able to come to the US. So ultimately they did reunite, a little bit of a happier ending than your Cuba story, but at
But
least in the Cuba story, they did reunite as well.
it's a horrible story in one way, but it's the biggest love story I've ever. It brings me to tears just thinking about that man. He didn't tell his wife. He didn't tell
Oh,
her.
oh my
He
gosh.
he went and did it because he was afraid it would leak out and everything, and then he had to stay. But he eventually got to come here. But
Yeah.
there's stories out there every day. Those are the ones I'm looking for, the ones that tell the story they haven't been told before in a way that helps you to understand. How could we say go back where you came from
Right, right.
when you know children are separated from parents? I
Oh,
mean, I think about your twins. I mean, and
mhm.
twins is a lot of people are fascinated with anything to do with twins because
Yeah.
I had an author that wrote a book about two twin girls. And I grew up with 7 sets of twins in my school. 7.
And I love this because actually I didn't tell you this part, but the book I'm working on, which starts with this impetus, actually has twins in it. Just like my Goodbye Orchid series has twins because I'm a
It's
mom of
fascinating.
twins.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating to people. The orphan train's fascinating. You can't have enough orphan train stories. You can't have enough twin stories, and you can't have enough stories of immigration because I've heard some incredible stories, Holocaust stories, and how people reunited. But I love the idea. And is it going to be a series or a standalone book?
Right now I'm writing a standalone. I'm writing a standalone. Yep.
I think that's good because then it'll establish you as a writer as well. I mean, there's a lot of work into doing a series. I know I'm
Mm.
talking to Andrew Gattani and many of them that start these series. I would never want to do a series because you get so invested in the characters, don't you?
Mhm.
They're real
Yeah.
to you.
I didn't intend for Goodbye Orchid to be a series. When I wrote, I was just going to write the one. And when I wrote it and I met with book clubs were like, well, wait a minute, you have to tell me more. You have to tell me about, exactly how they met and all the backstory. And so that's how Orchid Blooming came about. And then they were like, oh, no, that's not enough. Now I need to know what happens after the last page of Goodbye Orchid. And that's how Always Orchid came about. And this one shocked me. When I wrote Always Orchid, I thought by then I knew the characters, I knew everything. But no, as I wrote, secrets came about. Secrets revealed themselves. The homeless man who Phoenix saved in the New York City subway station, I did not intend to write him. He showed up on the page uninvited and said, you have to write about me.
That happens. It's like your book becomes a life of its own.
Mm,
It really does. And that's why I think so many religions use storytelling for lessons, because we can understand the prodigal son, and we can understand things, some Cain and Abel, different stories in the Bible, when we hear them told in storytelling form. And so it's all about the story this year, and it's Big Book Love, and it's going to be, we're going around the world. And I'm working on 3 books myself right now, 2 children's and my sequel. And I'm not in any hurry, because when I get them done, I'm really going to go out. And everywhere I'm going to go, I'm going to do like I did last time. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to be here. All my authors, come with me on the stage, wherever, whatever it is. I did it in New York City. I called Barnes and Noble and said, I'm bringing my authors to New York. Can I have a venue? Yes. All I had to do is say, I got us a booking at Barnes and Noble on Central Park. And they go, we'll be there. So, it's and this is another thing I want to share with all the authors listening to tonight. I found that single events are wonderful if you can get like a big speaking venue or a fundraiser or something. But it seems like to me the people that are having better success are groups of like-minded, maybe not the same genre, but, fiction writers, memoir writers, certain kinds. Or for me, it's just pulpit queen authors. I want to get back out and get you guys' books out there to places that you normally wouldn't go. I mean, you go probably up and down the seacoast, right? New York, and, but you
Yeah.
go other places too.
I have signed in a lot of places. I've signed in Barnes and Nobles and indie bookstores in many states, not just New Jersey, New York, but also Pennsylvania, Florida, Hawaii. I'm going to be out in
Yeah,
California.
I saw the Hawaii. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then I'll be signing in California in a few weeks, in San Francisco, and then down near Santa Barbara in a town called Solvang, which is an adorable little cute antiquing town. You would love it there.
Oh, I used to live in San Diego, so I'm very familiar with all the way up to Los Angeles. Above San Francisco, not so much. Yeah, you have to get out there, and you have to think outside the box on. I just had a Hawaii author on here, Jim Markham, who did the book on Big Lucky, and I had Dana. Uh,
Oh,
Ty Soon Burgess,
I love
because they're
Dana. Yep.
both New Mexico authors and they never met, and they're
Oh,
both in the arts. So I put it up and I had them introduce them to each other. Now they're becoming big friends. It's so cool, because I go, well, you're both working. He was a hairdresser to the celebrities, and Dana has his own dance company. So I think doing unusual groupings and things, those are things to think about. And I love it. I used to have a really big chapter in Santa Monica. Um, uh, that had Jack Black's mom in the book club. I had a lot of crazy celebrity people, and but the girl who was running it, she got too busy and she had to stop. But what is happening now is people are so busy that you've got to figure out a way that they can. It's like an entertainment too. It's not just going to a book signing, it's an evening out, like an arts and letters program at the Dallas Morning News. But I am working with the librarians and with the university on bringing authors to UT campus. We had Antonita come, and that was the biggest, craziest thing. She went to a Cold War convention in Pennsylvania or somewhere, and my professor I'm working for was speaking at it. And I found out they both were going to be there, and I go, you've got to meet, you've got to meet. She invited her to come and speak at the university. So that went over really well. So I'm hoping that I can work, the more I'm working at the, on campus, the more I can bring in authors. And we've got a huge alumni association that should want to bring in your story. We have a huge, Pan-Asian community and an international studies group. So it would be fascinating. So I'm working on that. Now back to this book. So you haven't started it yet. You're still touring and doing all that with this last book, right?
It's certainly been busy with Always Orchid because we're still in just the just over 6 months now since it came out. And so it's been very busy touring. I have been working a little bit. Do you know about this program to write 1,000 words a day? So the
I've
author,
heard there's several of those. Yes, I
yeah,
have. And the thing about it is if you write 1,000 words a day, you've got a book in it, pretty short period of time.
mm,
I do it. I do like a week of where I just write, 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 and then I have a break, paint, 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 paint. But I'm pretty much been writing every day this summer because I'm home. But I think everybody has to work out their own regime. But it's just like any habit.
yeah,
If you get it started, they say it only takes 3 days to create a habit.
mm,
3 days. So if you could do it for 3 days in a row, you're well on your way.
yeah.
I don't know how you do it with twins. They're how old are they now?
Tomorrow's their birthday. They're about to turn 21. So we
Okay.
do have, the empty nest does help. And but yes, my full-time job is very, very busy, and that is such a big priority. It's very important to me. I do spend a lot of energy and time there. And so it's been hard to find time for writing for sure.
Well,
And are
they
you,
say they say the people that get the most done are the busiest people.
that's probably true.
And I,
Probably
I
true.
really believe
And
that.
you're one of them because now
Well,
I'm
I've
going back.
learned how to utilize my time. People go, "Do you sleep?" And I go, "No." I was up at like 4. I don't know if you saw me. I painted my refrigerator
What?
because
No.
I painted my refrigerator. It's so awesome. I am in love with my refrigerator. I don't like white in my house. Now other
Um,
people's houses is beautiful. I like color. And it's white and the dishwasher was white. So I decoupaged the dishwasher and I painted in 2 days. I painted the entire refrigerator and it's drying now, but it's really cool. I'll show you at the end.
yeah.
But I posted some pictures up on Facebook. But people go, "Who would ever?" This isn't the first time I painted my refrigerator.
Does the
I've done
paint stay on? It doesn't flake off?
no. It's a vinyl. So you can paint on it. I sealed it, so it's sealed, so it's not going to go anywhere. And it's not like I can't touch it up.
Mhm.
So and it's not like I get in the refrigerator that much. I'm never home. So and it's an old fridge, so it came with the house. But I don't think I'd paint a brand new one, but I go, I can't look at it anymore. I'm painting it. But
Wow.
my kids are both more minimalists. I
Mhm.
mean, and I go to their house and I go, where is everything? Oh, well, I decided I had too much stuff. I
Yeah,
go,
that's
okay.
more my house for sure.
Well, everybody has to have that's what makes this world so wonderful is everybody's unique. And if we were all perfectly the same, we'd be robots. We'd
Mm.
be AI generators or whatever. I don't even know what to think about this AI thing. Have you seen the new lawnmower? That is totally, it's like it runs on it. You just put it down and it mows your yard. It knows how to do it.
My stepfather-in-law has one in the Netherlands, and they love it. It's great. And
Well,
he's
I
nice.
said,
He
well,
just comes
that
up with
makes
three.
sense. Manual labor, it makes sense, but taking away artists and musicians and poets and people's jobs, I have a real problem with. When you can generate a novel like Jeffrey Lawrence Matthews showed us in less than 5 minutes, a novel in less than 5 minutes. You
Yeah.
can type in if you want to do a video, you say, I want to do a video showing travel and talking about the aspects of this part of travel, and you put it in there, and you have a reel that you can post on Facebook that's professionally done, and it takes relatively 5 minutes.
I think with any technology, it depends on what you put it to use for, to your example. If you put it
Well,
for mowing your lawn versus, doing things that aren't ethical, that's the difference.
using like Scarlett Johansson's
Yeah.
voice, that is a problem. But
Yeah.
what I'm worried about is that you can put it in there 2 times in a row and you won't get the same thing.
Well, that's
It's
the
not,
nature of generative AI. I think that's
and
what
it's
people need to
not
understand.
necessarily like they got the town that Jeffrey did it, and he said they didn't even get the right town that I live in. He lives in
Yeah,
Naples,
it's not meant
Florida.
to be factual. Generative AI is used for other things. If you want factual, then just, search it through an online search.
Well, I agree. It makes it, if it would do the dishes and the laundry and clean the toilet, I think we'd be in really good shape. But, and then people could focus on, you know, following their dreams and things. So there's a lot of change that's going to happen. If you look at every century, this last 100 years was the biggest changes in American history. But if you look at every century, the first 20 to 30 years, everything changes. When you think about when the telegraph came in and the telephone and Edison and lights, and then, I mean, I remember when we didn't have computers or even cell phones, and people go, "What do you mean you didn't have a cell phone?" And I go, I just talked about it today. I had a rotary dial phone in Jefferson in my first home because it came with the house. It
Yeah,
was from the 1930s.
sure. I remember rotary dial and, having to use pay phones because you didn't have a cell phone. That's just the way it was. Yeah.
And
Now,
the technology is the only concern I have is if Wi-Fi goes down, we are in trouble. We can't get to the bank. We can't pay our
yeah,
bills. We can't get
we're
gas.
dependent. Yeah. We're
So, uh,
online a lot. Yeah.
and if anybody ever thinks, I don't even want to manifest that out there, but if anybody thinks about that, you could shut literally any city down relatively short if
Mhm.
you killed their internet.
Yeah. So true.
It's so sad. So, well, I'm excited about, have you got a working title or anything for this book?
I've played around with a few, and so yet to see. It depends because I think the title has to really capture the essence. And so because I haven't written the story yet, I think I need to see where the story goes, and then the title will come. Goodbye Orchid was named at the last minute. I was literally on a Zoom call with my editor, and we were toasting over a glass of wine, and I still didn't have a title. There was, other titles. Actually, the working title at that time was Missing Pieces. But I felt
There's
like
been a
that
lot
was,
of books called that, I think.
and it does fit because of the accent that Phoenix goes through, but I felt like it was a little too on the nose. Like it wasn't meant to be so, taken so literally. And so my editor said, read me the opening of your book. And when I read the opening line, Phoenix never believed today was going to be goodbye. Phoenix never believed today was goodbye. She was like, I've got it. It has to be Goodbye Orchid.
Yeah.
And it was so perfect because this is the central tension of,
And
yeah.
the the reason why it jumped out and was the first one I read in the stack was because orchids are my favorite flower. And I was
Oh,
just like, oh my God, I love the covers. I love everything about this. And then the story was great. But, I put big thought into, my agent named my book, The Pulpwood Queen's Tiara Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life, and I loved it. Uh, but the next book, I think it may be just Kathy L. Murphy, Big Book Love.
mm,
And because that's what it is. It's all about the story. It's funny, but you think about To Kill a Mockingbird. It came from that little quote.
mhm. Yeah.
All you never kill a mockingbird because all they do is sing their little hearts out for us. So,
Mhm.
I think that you'll find it. You'll find it, and it's smart to have beta readers because artists have those too. They
Oh,
have people go, I have two paintings. Do you like this one that has the grid or the one without the grid?
mm,
And it was a split decision. And I said, here's what I say to anybody, whether you do a book, a song, a piece of art, has it been done before? If it's been done before, don't use it. If you
mhm,
have a title and somebody else has used it, don't use it.
mhm,
It has to be original in thought and in storyline, and it has to be your voice, so you have to, everybody goes, well, you put the grid in front of it, you can't see. And I go, I think it makes you look more. But
oh,
every painting in the world you look at is you look at. But when you put grid over it. It made, and
Mm.
it was called Behind the Veil, I think is what she called it. I thought it made you think, okay, what's back there? I thought it was unique, but I look at things a little bit differently because I'm kind of quirky,
Love
and
that.
I'm always, I feed off of when I talk to you. I'll listen to your thing before I put it out there after we end and put it up on the channel. And then the neat thing about it is anybody can share it. There's a share button, share, share, share. The more I'm putting here's my big secret too. Everybody listening to my channel. I found that the more posts I do on LinkedIn, the more I got 87 hits today on LinkedIn, people looking at my story about painting, I think, my refrigerator. It's it's business, corporate people are, they're not used to that. They're used to, but I had another author who was becoming, and a publisher that were becoming very successful or getting their books out there by going on LinkedIn. And not very many authors do that. So if you can put that story out there, I put the veteran story out there of me interviewing all these veterans from Vietnam. They were the coolest guys ever. They were staying at the resort that I was at, and I walked by and saw them sitting there, and they reminded me of my dad and his buddies. So I
Mm.
went over and I just started talking to him, and I go, "You wouldn't mind me interviewing you?" I had the best hour ever just
Oh.
talking to those guys. So, and I would say that's another thing you could do is everybody that you come into your research for, interview them. Get a
Mm.
little backstory on some of these stories, and because you can't put it all in your book.
Mm.
So it's going to think about Lisa Wingate, how she found that story in a newspaper clipping and she became fascinated with it. And then she got a whole nother book on just the people who, after it was over, wanted to all meet, you
Mm.
know? So, my friend Kim Sooney, she was adopted and she was found on the streets in Vietnam by an American soldier. And she was adopted by him and his family in New Orleans. Talk about culture shock. And they adopted these two little girls and they get them and they aren't even related. They were just on the street. And now she's a chef.
Oh, wow.
Her memoir came out the same time as mine. It's a beautiful book. Kim Sunee, Sunee, wonderful book, but she never did find her family.
That's so
So,
hard.
there's always those heartbreaks too.
Yes.
But you're gonna, and it'll be great for your kids.
Yes.
To know your family's history and to know your medical. It's so important. I have a friend that's a twin. She was adopted. She never was able to find her twin.
Oh, that's so hard. How did they get separated? Did you
They
s
were put out for adoption. And then she had twins. And then she
Oh.
was trying to find out for her medical, um, you know, for her own, and she never could. And she's a history major. She did everything she could. She never could
Oh,
find.
that's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they
Yeah.
don't separate twins, but back
No,
then
I really believe in adopting families, siblings
yeah,
together, splitting them up.
absolutely.
That's what was so upsetting about all those kids that were taken away from their parents down at the border here in Texas. There
Mm.
were nearly 1,000 children taken away from their parents, and the parents don't know where they are.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
Yeah, they don't know where they are. They took them to North Dakota. They took them all over the place and nobody did the paperwork right or something. Babies were taken away from them, and one young little 16-year-old boy got sick and he died. I have a minister friend that went down there, a Methodist minister, and he was reporting. He said, "It's these people. They're not drug runners. They're escaping for their lives." He goes, "We've got to help them, and we've got to help people. I mean, if we can't help people, then." I mean, that's what America is. We're a melting pot. So
Mm.
I want to read your book. I can't wait. I'm reading now for 2025. Do you think you'll get it done in
No,
2025?
I don't think so.
That's all right. That's okay. I've got
We'll
you on
see,
the
but
back burner.
I doubt it.
I've got you on the back burner, but anytime you have any big story or you want to do a book launch, call me. We'll do a Zoom. I'm telling all my authors it's getting harder and harder to schedule them. So what I'm doing is I'm working on their schedule. I go, here's when I've got, here's what you've got. Let's work out a time. So I'm talking to 2 more authors tomorrow to see what we can figure out to do a Zoom together. And they're from different parts of the country. So, you know, I just want to help everybody understand that the Pulpwood Queen books, whether any of the Orchid books that you read, these are going to be books that you're going to treasure and you're going to want to share them with family members. I mean, if anybody reads this, you can know somebody can give it to. I
Mm,
mean, for me. So my dad's favorite, I wish my dad had been alive when your books came out because
mm.
he came back from uh, Korea and he wasn't the same.
Um,
He jumped on the top of a transport vehicle because he had the radio of his company, and they said jump on top, it's too packed on the inside, and they went around a mountain and they went off, and my dad was thrown, fell through the trees, but he didn't die.
oh my
And
God.
yeah, but everybody in that vehicle was killed except for my father.
Wow. And then there's the survivor's guilt, which is so hard as well.
I
Oh,
tried to help him try to find this one guy from Louisiana. He called him Red. He was a Cajun, and we never could find him. But he made bonds with these guys there, and but he would just short tempered and drank and he was a good person, but he fought those
yeah.
demons.
PTSD is so hard. It is treatable, and that's part of what I try to shine a light on in Orchid Blooming is the way that Orchid goes for treatment. She goes to therapy. There are techniques, and they're learning more and more techniques to be able to help people. And different things help different people, but that's part of, my mission is shining a light on that idea that you can get help. You don't have to just, suffer on your own. And
Yeah.
so her healing journey, yeah, is important.
Loud noises trigger are real triggers
Mm.
for because it just sets them back. So thank God you wrote these books. So I'm so thankful. I hope everybody will. I'm going to be. This is being recorded, and I will be putting it up tonight. So it'll be up tonight, and I'll get up. Make sure you have it before I leave for my job interview tomorrow. And
Ooh.
Carol, I can't thank you enough. I have your I took your boots off the mantle. They're now in my office. They've been working their way around the house, but I can't ever put them away because they're just so beautiful. But
Oh,
I think about both you and Kathy Ramsberger gave me boots, and I just think that is the most touching thing in the world for somebody to give me their shoes. I don't know. It's just really great. But I wish you all the best. And seriously, anything I can do for you, if you need a blurb for the book when it comes out, I'm now writing blurbs for my authors that I picked their books. So I have more time than even with school, but I have all summer off and I have holidays. So keep me posted on everything. Any last words for anybody out there about why they would want to read this series?
the series is certainly filled with hope and empathy, and I hear from readers that it can change their lives. I actually had a reader recently. I went to a 20th anniversary of a book club. They read Goodbye Orchid, and one woman told me the story that when she had gone on a first date in her younger days, she had met a man, they were getting along, they were having a meal, and he told her that he had prosthetic legs. And she, in that moment, decided she could not go forward with this relationship. She just knew this was going to be their first and last date because of that. And she told me that after reading my books, it changed her mind. She said if she was in that situation again, she would not have made the decision to close off that relationship for that reason. And so to hear that these stories can change minds and lives, makes me incredibly proud. And I hope certainly people will seek out a beautiful series. Thank you so much, Kathy.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And it's so true because you know what is I've learned, in this time of since my divorce and everything, it's what is really important is that somebody that you meet that you would ever want to have a relationship with, you want to each make each other better. You don't, one doesn't rule over the other. It's got to be a partnership, and respect is the number one thing is you've got to respect the person and honor them. And I really believe that. I think falling in love with somebody that's an easy thing because we all get infatuated, but real love is based upon respect and friendship and caring for that person, like they say, through sickness and health. So God bless you, man. I'm so excited about all these books, and everybody, you can get them at your favorite booksellers. They're online, all your favorite online booksellers. And if they want to reach out to you, Carol, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
My website, carolvandenhende.com, has a contact page, or you can
Yeah.
go to my link tree, linktr.ee/CVDH. And if anyone does pick up Goodbye Orchid, you'll see Kathy's
Yeah.
emblem right on the front cover.
I know. I'm so excited about that. But I have a new emblem, and my new emblem is black and gold.
Ooh.
And I'll send it to you when I get this posted and everything, so you can look at it. But it's the pink was really nice for the 90s and all that stuff, but we have matured a lot, and people need a stamp that's going to go with any color scheme. So I went with black and gold, and I think it's going to be really pop. And it's Kathy L. Murphy, Big Book Love, and it's got a book with a world globe on it. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited about the new program. And I think authors are signing up daily. They are signing up. Book club members, I say, just there's no membership to be a reader, but there is. You can go to my pages and you can watch it. So if anybody's watching it, and I say share, 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 that's the best thing you can do for an author, because even if you don't read the book or you don't buy the book, you're going to send it to somebody. I heard her speak. It was amazing. You might want to check this out. So, and Father's Day is coming up. I think these would be great Father's Day gifts. So
It's so
good for
true.
you.
Yes.
All right.
Inspired by combat wounded veterans.
Well,
Yep.
you have a great night, and thank you for doing this. And Kathy L. Murphy, Big Book Love. Okay. So we'll see you next time. It's all about the story.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kathy.
Thank you. Bye, Carol. Bye bye.
Bye.